If you don't accept the fact of life that failure is what directly leads to success, you will never succeed. And to prove this, I brought up a point of Colonel Sanders and Thomas Edison. This guy, who invented KFC, failed over 1,006 times before he finally got a yes. We have trouble as humans conceptualizing of these numbers, but actually think of the magnitude of numbers like this, 1,006. Yet if you do something and try it once or twice and it fails, you'll fucking quit. This guy ended up changing the world and bringing his ideas into fruition just because he had the sheer conviction in himself that what he was doing was special and what he was doing was good. And he took this situation 1,006 times before he got a yes. And even on the 1,007th time, he wasn't convinced that he was going to get a yes. But he knew that he was going to keep going because what he had was good. And Thomas Edison, on the other hand, he was a maniac. He was convinced that he will invent something that no one ever has invented before, which is the light bulb. And every single experiment that he put together, he was convinced that it was going to work, or at least he was convinced that one time it was going to work. And when it fucking didn't, on the 8,756th attempt, he was like, fuck it, it will work next time. He's said to have tried over 10,000 times to invent the light bulb, and every single time it didn't work, he just told himself, aha, I found a new way not to invent it. So once, if I find infinite ways not to invent it, it will work. Yeah, you're still afraid of starting the thing that you know will change your life. You know will change the life of others. And you know that people have done this before. You're probably not even dreaming as big as this guy did. Yet you're still not starting for some reason. Let's fix that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how it doesn't really matter if you fail. And if you actually understand this, and I mean actually understand it, not just in some fucking pseudo sense of, yeah guys, failure doesn't exist, hee hee, you will win. Because the thing is, pessimists get to be right but optimists get to win. It's this fucking simple. So here's the thing. Every single time a hater or a doubter of Colonel Sanders's told him that, oh no, you're not going to succeed, there's no way this stupid recipe of yours is going to work, he technically succeeded once out of 1,007 times. So when the hater told him that, no, you're not going to succeed, they were almost always right. I mean, this is smaller than 0.1%. This is incredibly low. Like, he succeeded at a very, very low success rate. So every single time a pessimist or a hater or someone told him that, oh no, you're not going to succeed, they were right. But the thing is, the one time that they weren't right was the only time that it mattered. It doesn't matter. You're right. Okay, cool. You got some fucking moral glory or some shit. Like, no one cares about these instances. The only instance that matters is this one. And once you get to this one, which actually succeeds, that's the one that will matter. You know, you can think of this as, if you take a girl home to your parents and they're like, oh no, she won't be your wife anyway. She won't be your wife anyway. In most cultures, you know, the average girlfriends that a man has is like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, or fuck if I know, that's just like an educated guess of mine. The thing is, again, by chances, you're probably going to marry one of them only. And just that fact alone leads your success rate to be between like 10 and 20%. So when your parents say that, oh no, she won't be your wife anyway, why are you wasting your time? They're probably going to be right. I mean, technically, if we take the chances between 10 and 20%, they are going to be right. However, the one time you actually find your wife and the woman of your dreams, it will fucking matter. And that's literally the time that will matter. The rest of the times, fuck it. Who cares? You know, you took your shot. And it could be the same with any business, you know, similar to this example of Colonel Sanders or Thomas Edison. Maybe you want to start a business and your friends are telling you that it's a bullshit idea. People online and your parents and whoever is around you is telling you that it's not going to work. You know, like, it's probably not going to work. You know, you've seen the statistics that most businesses fail, and that's a truth. That's a true fact. And for me, it was like my 5th business that broke even, and it was like my 11th business that was actually a big success, and I actually earned a lot of money from it. So technically, every single time someone was doubting me, and not to be fucking melodramatic, I didn't have too many haters and shit, but I knew that some people around me weren't too adamant that I was gonna succeed. Every single time they were in that state and they were telling me, no, don't do this or don't do that, they were probably right. Hate to admit it, but they were probably right. But the thing is, it doesn't fucking matter. It never fucking mattered, because the one time that you get to win, this is the one that matters. So anytime someone tells you, oh no, it's not going to succeed, be like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, maybe it's not going to succeed, but after a while it will. Volume negates luck is another quote that I like. And that just simply means that if I do this infinite amount of times, it is literally impossible for me to not succeed. If I do this thing that has a success rate that is incredibly low, but I keep doing it and I keep doing it and I keep doing it and I keep doing it, it will succeed. This is mathematical, by the way. There's no way to disregard this. If you actually have something that has like a 2% success rate, maybe your business or something, and even if you look at the fucking statistic that 99 out of 10 startups fail, so this means 1% success rate. Well, if you do this over 100 times, you're likely to succeed again. So yeah, sure, maybe, obviously, the point is to make yourself skilled and to actually have people around you that are very good, so your startup doesn't actually end up having a 1% success rate, because you can actually increase this number to have like a 10 or maybe even a 100 success rate if you're good enough. But the thing is, what if we just fucking stick to this and we're like, yeah, we've seen the stats, we know, we're not likely to succeed, but we will keep doing it until we fucking do. We will fail, because we understand that failure is a part of success. And if you no longer look at failure as this fucking bad event and, oh no, we have to fucking get around it anyway because it's not going to leave us with this funny, good, fuzzy feeling inside of us, we actually get to grow up and we actually get to try again, because that's the beauty of life. We get to try again. Every single time we fall to our knees, we get to get back up and we get to go again. So every single time we look at some of these failure events, don't look at it as an end-all be-all. And now you rolled the dice with this percentage and it didn't succeed, and now you're back to your fucking 9 to 5. This isn't how it is. This does not exist. You can get to go again, and you roll the dice on that 0.1% chance again, and it doesn't succeed again, and then you go again, and after a while, it will succeed, and that is the time that only matters. Now, I digress. Let's take a step back and actually analyze the situation for what it is. What would we declare as failure in the first place? Like, what is failure? Who is to say that we failed in the first place? Now, the definition you might say is something like, did you achieve your desired outcome? Which is quite a good definition, but let's just stick with did you succeed? The opposite of success is failure, essentially. So what is the definition of success? That's another great question that we could ask ourselves. And usually, if we start a business, we could say that success equals money. Or if we want to get a girl, we might say success equals love. Or if we want to get any promotion, then that's what success is. Success is the desired result, the desired outcome. And usually this leads us to get validation from other people. And this is usually, the societally success kind of thing, that, oh yeah, we succeeded and now we get the fucking applause of other people. And that's what we define as success as usually. But I would ask you to shift this definition a bit, because if we go back to this mathematical sense of understanding things, let's say you're a public speaker and you're speaking in front of your class. Let's just stick with that example. This could be extrapolated to any realm of life, but let's just stick with this example. You're giving a public speech and you're a decent speaker, but the chances that you will stumble and the chances that you will make a fool of yourself at some point in the speech, that it won't be a 10 out of 10 speech, is quite high. So let's say your success rate is right now 60%. 60% is the chance that you will fucking nail this speaking gig in your class. Now you can look at this as the ultimate event in your life, and you must succeed. And you might like you could look at the fucking tips and tricks videos before, and you might procrastinate and learn as much as you can, or you can fail as much as you can before. Because here's the thing: if you take this chance, which is 60%, you can either succeed. And let's take the definition of success we just established: not stumble in your words, actually be charismatic, and not have any kind of errors. Or you can fail. But here's the even better thing. You get to learn from each one. And now your success rate is 61% after both of them. Because even if you failed and even if you succeeded, you did the thing. And now you know that, oh shit, even if you failed, you're like, oh shit, that time I stumbled because I looked at this person and their expression kind of threw me off. I said this word and I'm not really good at articulating that word, so I'm going to try to do something different. Or I'm going to go home and try to articulate that word and learn about it. Both of these chances, the time when you go again, this was your first attempt, your second attempt, you're going to have 61% chance of succeeding. This is incredible, because this leads us to understand that this is an infinite feedback loop of getting better. Every single time you have conscious improvement, that is the only time pretty much that you will actually learn tangible skills. Now, you can go back to your room, you can watch the fucking YouTube video, you can actually, fucking learn about the thing, right? Read a few textbooks, watch a podcast, watch a YouTube video. But the thing is, Every single time you learn some knowledge without applying it, not only do you kind of forget, but you learn a dialed-in set of rules, which isn't usually the same thing as it appears to be in real life. For example, if you're a public speaker and you're giving this public speech and you have this script in front of you and you're talking, but like 4 minutes in, someone in the audience asks you a question that you aren't prepared for. Now, if you only have this dialed-in script and shit that you learn from YouTube and stuff, you're not going to succeed. You're going to get thrown off and you're going to be like, I'm not used to this. Because you don't actually have the experience. The charisma and wit and the actual like good comebacks and shit like that is what is built in the field. So this is like, I'm talking like this because I really needed to hear this message when I was like 1 or 2 years ago, because I was literally the guy who would go back to his room and he would study, but I really wouldn't put in the effort and I wouldn't understand that failure is literally the way to go. Because if you do this, this is the only way that you will get better, and you fail again, now you're at 62%. And if you do this an infinite amount of times, you will eventually become the person who can no longer fail. And this is the goal. This is the definition of success I want you to have. Now, the problem with our understanding of things is we have this timeline that is very, very like small. We're just like, okay, this is our life right now. Maybe we're 24 years old. And we look at this event right here, this public speaking gig, as this must succeed. We have to succeed in this one. Life ends if we don't succeed. We only have a sight within a few months. This is the tragedy of humankind. I've said this in many videos, but the problem with humanity for the most part is that we have very big limitations when it comes to long-term thinking. If we can't think in decades, we cannot build anything great. Nothing, like Rome wasn't built in a day. That's a saying that's very popular and for a good reason, because if we look at shit like this, that, oh no, we must succeed. If we keep going into the mindset of, oh, we must succeed, and we have these events and then we're 30, the thing is, if we have a 60% chance of success here, and we only have these very, very few events, and we all go into them with insane amounts of preparation and everything, we will not. By the time that we're 30 and we have this final gig, let's say at 30, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reps, and let's say we're at fucking 64% chance. We hardly even got better because we put in like no reps and we were so hyper-focused on every single fucking situation that came by. Imagine someone who has more speaking gigs. Maybe they practice with their mother, with their aunt, with their friends. Maybe they go on extra gigs outside, extracurricular shit like societies, and I don't know, they become the captain of this and that. And they have these extra gigs here, and they literally don't give a fuck about failure because they understand that this is the only way to succeed. This is the only way to get better. They understand that if they spam this equation, and every single time, they don't care about this validation type of success. They care about this improvement type of success. The only outcome that is possible is to improve. So the only outcome that is possible in a funny way is to succeed, because their success definition now is to improve. And that happens every single time. So they understand that by attempt number 71, it will literally be almost impossible to fail anymore. And by the time that they get 30, this person who spams their timeline full of speaking gigs, their success rate will be 99%. Well, this person who's hyperfixated on the outcome of getting validation, of having the crowd applaud you and shit like this, their success rate when they're 30 years old will be 64, because they won't be as deep into failure. This person, their stats, if you were to say, their losses would be fucking, I don't know, 60 losses, and their wins would be 27 wins or some shit, right? I just said some arbitrary number. I know it doesn't really add up to 71. But the thing is, these, like this person, if you look at their records, it would probably be bad, you know. And you could extrapolate this to literally everything. I mean, you could see someone who's a boxer or like an MMA artist, and they could have a record of 30 wins and 40 losses. And they could be such an amazing fighter. While you could have someone who has 2 wins and 0 losses. Who do you think is going to eat the other fucking person in the cage? I don't even have to answer it, do I? So you understand how every single time you actually try, the only possible outcome is to learn. The only possible outcome is to get your chance of success in a given thing from 60 to 61. Now, I'm not saying that extracurricular learning and actually putting time in behind the screen and actually like educating yourself is a bad thing, but you really, really have to strike a balance. And for most people, especially if you're like me, it's more on this side that you have to lean into, because we're naturally on the side of learning and on the side of not going into failure, because leaning into failure is like scary for us. Fear isn't that deep. Once you step into it, you realize that most of fear actually goes away, and the once or twice that you actually put yourself in the situation with the knowledge that you're not all that good and you're probably going to fail, but every time you do, you will get better. It will be infinitely more easier, infinitely, like the time when you're going for your 5th attempt, this will be so much easier than going for the 1st or 2nd. I promise you that. So just get through the first few losses, and then it will be so much easier to fail, and then get better and get to this actual 99%. Because here's the thing. If this is you right now, you have 2 options. You can try, and you can not try. However, with not trying, you will always fail, and you won't learn anything. But if you try, you can succeed, and you can fail. The thing is, in both, you will learn something. So not only will you not get like the traditional sense of success in this, if you don't try, you will never get the traditional sense of success of, getting the validation, of getting the gratitude and shit. If you try, not only do you have a chance of actually succeeding in this traditional sense of getting this kind of shit and the validation and etc., but in both situations, you learn. So this is ultimately the way forward. This is ultimately the way where you actually guarantee that you'll be an amazing generalist, multifaceted person by the time that you've aged a few years. And this definition of success is the one which makes you unbeatable in the long term. But the thing is, you already kind of knew this to some extent or another. Putting this into simple terms and actually drawing it on the board probably helped you quite a lot. But the thing is, you already had a conception of this. You already knew that life wasn't going to end if you do fail, and you already knew that you should try, but you don't actually end up trying because you still fear shit. And I'm here to tell you that it's totally normal. The thing is, our brain runs on outdated software. We attribute getting a bad public speech from getting exiled from the tribe, from, fucking banished. And then we literally attribute with death. And I'm not kidding here, and that's exactly because of the amygdala and the region of the brain that this activates, and it's the exact same region and the exact same situation, essentially, which was activated back in the day when we got, we showed some sign of weakness. And then we got exiled from the tribe. And that ended up with the lion eating us for breakfast. So, I hope it makes sense to you that literally showing any type of weakness, stuttering our words, not saying the correct thing, shitting our pants, whatever it may be, it leads us to getting judged by others. And usually every single type of fear is fear of judgment. There's very, very few exceptions because judgment is essentially what we fear the most. People have been quizzed on this, and the biggest fear of people is public speaking. And that's why I bring up this example, because I think a lot of us can relate to this. But we might think that we're fine with public speaking, but once we're in the spot and once we actually have the audience in front of us, it becomes a really, really scary situation for most of us. And that's why it's the biggest fear. We end up associating it with getting banished and exiled and disbanded or whatever the fuck. And that usually we associate with death, because that is what our brain goes to. Can we survive in the wild out alone? Probably not, because the lion will fucking devour us in the morning. So this is the part of circuitry that is getting activated. Now, here's a few things that you can do to actually prevent this and to actually become conscious of it. The first thing is that very thing, becoming conscious of it and becoming aware of it, that this is what's being activated. Now, this will still remain active, but now you know why you're feeling the fear in the first place. Once you have this unjustified feeling of fear that, oh shit, we're feeling this thing and we don't know why, so we better listen to it, that's what we do. We listen to it. But once you know that, oh, I feel fear right now, but it's this outdated circuit of my brain, and I probably shouldn't listen to it, because although it is a fear signal, and although it is quite a heavy fear signal, I know that it's not going to lead me to anything good. Now that you understand that, you can lean into it next time. And again, you will feel fear, but the thing you can do now is to lean into courage. And courage is feeling the fear, but actually doing the thing. So it doesn't mean that you won't fear the thing anyway. This means that you will feel fear, but you're actually going to do it because you understand that it's an outdated circuit of the brain. And the next thing we can do is do some sort of double breathing or some sort of breathing exercise. Now, the one I usually do is this double breathing. I don't know what it's entirely called, but that's what I usually call it. It was popularized mainly by Andrew Huberman, and he basically recommends us, before we're going into some sort of stressful situation, to do this, where we only breathe through our nose, but once we're like 80 to 90% full in our lungs and our belly, we take this extra breath, and it looks something like this. and do that a few times, and it will have this signal to your system that you're kind of resetting and relaxing and back into the state of actually being present in your body and not thinking about, oh shit, is that person doing this, and are they judging me, and these kind of thoughts that we get once we're really anxious and we get put into these situations. So focus on your breathing, bring yourself back to the present moment, and actually understand that this isn't as deep as you think it is. And once you actually realize these things, you will be able to lean into it, because again, fear is going to be there, but once you do lean into it, and once you're like, here the fuck I am, judge me if you want, I don't give a shit, because I'm going to be the person that I want to become, and I'm going to fail until I succeed, and that's the shit that matters, you're going to be fine. Now finally, a lot of people like to say that we should bring ourselves back, and should just pretend that it's not that big of a deal, and spiritually everything is the same, and we're just particles in the universe and everything. But the thing is, if I'm like a very socially anxious person, there's absolutely no fucking way I'm going to approach the gym baddie. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to give a presidential speech if I'm too scared to speak in front of my class. Jumping from this low level to that extremely high level, I don't care. Maybe I'm not enlightened enough. Maybe I'm not strong enough spiritually. It doesn't work for me. And if you're like me, it probably doesn't work for you either. So I'm going to teach you how to actually put in this incremental increase in what we do, and actually make sure that we can jump up to the high level, but by making baby steps. So if we were to rate ourselves on this interesting scale of 1 to 10, and let's just stick with the socially anxious person. If you are at the scale of on social anxiety at like a 2.24, and this is how well equipped you feel socially, maybe you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family, but once it gets outside of that, you kind of mumble, you kind of stutter, you kind of have like a lot of resistance inside of you to speak to these people, then you're going to struggle. And obviously, if you let's just go with an example of going to Tesco's, right? You go to Tesco's, and what you can do here to improve your skill is to speak to the cashier. You can tell them, thank you. Now that might literally be out of your comfort zone. That might be like a 2.31 level of being social, speaking to the cashier in any shape or form. But that's kind of the thing that you need to do, because the thing that actually leads us to improve is incremental growth. Now, speaking to the gym baddie could be like an 8.31, because she's like the pedestalized person in there because everyone's looking at her and wow, she's training glutes and shit. But the thing is, this is just so far out of our reach that it's kind of impossible unless we absolutely, pull off some fucking witchcraft. It's not going to happen, right? So this thing that's only like 5 to 10% harder, or maybe even less, 5 to 10% harder at most than our current skill level, we start doing that. It's not going to be that hard for us. If you were to eat 1,000 calories in the next meal, you need to eat 1,030 calories, you're not really going to notice the difference. It's kind of like that. It's having these incremental gains aren't actually that big of a deal. And every single time you go up by a bit, you won't really notice that big of a difference. And this might literally just be speaking to the cashier and saying thank you. And now this thing, which is just slightly above it, let's say 2.36, this might be speaking to the cashier and saying thank you. Have a nice day. And the next thing, which is, I'm going up a bit too far on the scale because this is supposed to be like 5 and we're already at 2.3, but I hope you understand that. I'm just doing this for illustration's sake. But the next thing, which is like 2.4, could be saying, thank you, have a nice day, but a bit louder. Because, we're usually, when we're introverted and doing shit like this, we're usually mumbling our words. And we could say, thank you, have a nice day, to where they actually hear you and they actually look at you and they actually smile at you. And you're going to get into this feedback loop of, oh shit, I can do it. Oh shit, I'm getting better. I see myself getting better. And this positive feedback loop will skyrocket your gains. Now, every single time you do this, you should keep looking for the thing that's just a bit on your edge. That's kind of what we're always looking for. And this is, you can kind of extrapolate this to the flow state, which kind of says that if you want to keep growing, what you must do is to find this edge in the middle. If this is your skill, this is the challenge level of the certain thing, and this is your skill level, this is kind of a narrow path in the middle that you must find, because if you find something that you're too skilled for, like it isn't challenging enough compared to your skill level, you will be bored. And if you find something that's too challenging compared to your skill level, which would be in this case approaching the gym baddie, you will find yourself in a state of anxiety. So what you must find is this narrow path in between, which is kind of challenging for you, but it's not to a point where you get anxious, and it's not easy to a point where you get bored. That would be these kind of incremental growths where you can actually understand that you will become better. Because if you don't, if you shut yourself away in your room, the only thing that will lead to is the entropy, the natural state of things. If you don't improve, you're regressing, you're getting worse. And that's probably why a lot of us got so much worse during COVID. That's probably why a lot of us got so much worse isolating ourselves. So if you actually understand this concept and you can apply it to whatever, maybe it's public speaking, and maybe next time you focus on your tonality a bit more and you speak a bit louder and you actually put your body into things, make sure that your voice is commanding and shit, and you're bringing examples and you're laughing and doing this kind of stuff, you're going to succeed and you're going to be a bit better. Or if you put it into weightlifting, you know, the concept of progressive overload is just this, you know, we bench 100 kg for 4 reps, then we bench 100 kg for 5 reps, then maybe we bench 90 kg for 10 reps, and we kind of go in this route where we maximize volume over a matter of time. You know, we always put on 1 rep or just a few kilos extra or just something that makes us just slightly tougher every single time. That is the way where we slowly but surely build ourselves up to the top. Now the problem with this is that you won't be consistent. So every single time I go and try to do something like this is the only problem that actually leads me to not succeed and to not get better every single time is not being consistent. So if you can set yourself like a habit tracker, or just get into this habit of doing it yourself, or maybe setting yourself some sort of accountability and going with different people, just setting the intention to actually do this every single time, every single day, no matter what, will lead you to become better. And you know, you don't have to do it every single day if you don't want to. But the thing is, every single time you have an opportunity, you need to get your brain into this state of realizing these kind of opportunities for growth. So next time you're at the gym and you're checking in with the receptionist, let's say, you must say something extra. Or maybe you're at the supermarket and you're talking to the cashier, you must say something extra. Because if you don't take these opportunities, you will be in this exact state we all were in COVID, with the public speaking example. You're going to regress. If you don't go to the gym for 2 months, you must understand that you're not going to be as strong. And it's the same exact thing like this. You're going to regress. And if you don't public speak for too long and you don't learn about it and you don't do the shit, you're also going to regress. So be consistent and don't actually imagine yourself to be constantly improving in life, because in some situations, some skills have to be kind of thrown under the bus for other ones. If you understand that we have like 100 or 200 skills in our life overall, or whatever, might be a lot more, might be a lot less, I don't know, that's just like an arbitrary number that I'm throwing out there. You can't improve all your skills at once. That's just the nature of it. Like in the past few years, my cycling skills have decreased because I haven't been on the bicycle as much as I probably should, or not that I should, but I haven't been on it that much, you know. And my speaking skills have probably improved, and my computer skills have probably improved, and my my language skills have probably improved. But the thing is, it's because I was prioritizing these. I was understanding this concept that I must put continuous effort into leveling these skills up, and that's actually how I will get to this point eventually, and how I'll get to this point eventually. So I was like, bicycle skills aren't that important for me. You know, I don't plan on being a fucking cyclist. I might cycle in the future, but it's not that important for me. You know, next time once I prioritize this in life and maybe I want to do like an Ironman or some shit, I'll do some bicycle training, but it's not that important for me right now. So I'm just going to focus on what actually matters to me, but actually make sure that you're consistent in it. Again, whatever vehicle you choose, you might do it your own and you might trust yourself that you're going to be consistent. You can get an accountability partner. But if you just put yourself in situations where you can learn and you have this mindset of constant growth and of being a student and of actually applying your knowledge and getting into this feedback loop, which we drew in the first or second section of this video, where you actually try every single time you can, you will always succeed. There's literally no way for you to not succeed. So if you can get out of this immature mindset of wanting the validation from your peers and, oh no, I can't fuck this life event up, and you're acting like you can only see like a few months ahead of your life, you're not going to grow up. And that's really what you need, ultimately, is to grow up. Because if you have this mindset of life will continue, and if I can just make myself into a person who is fucking amazing at many things, especially the things that matter to me, I will succeed in everything that I've ever wanted, and I will achieve my desired reality. So that is how you get rid of your fear of failure once and for all. This was one section of my 15 video course on beating procrastination, by the way. So if you're interested in beating procrastination, I have like a 50% off launch sale right now. And not only that, but you actually get to get it on a call with me one-on-one, and I actually get to solve your problems for you if you want me to. But if you don't want to buy it, that's totally fine as well. See you next time.